Alright, welcome back to Star Ocean Anamnesis. I hope you're all doing awesome. Hope you're all having fun with this. I'm really excited right now because we have the new set of Persona characters, and I really want to pull right now, but I can't. I can't. I have to do this first, and then we can do the pulls. So, I guess let's get into the update, shall we? So, first of all, we have two new rerun events. As always, Quark Seeks Justice. So, for the two weapons that we have here, they're not great. Highly recommend you transmute them, or, use them as transmutation fodder. They're, pretty good for that, I guess. And then we also have Transmogrified Alma. I'm pretty sure that's what he was called. So this one has 4 event weapons, which is pretty cool. Again, all of them are transmutation fodder. I'm pretty sure these last 2 weapons right here have extra attack damage on their last factor, which is decent, but, most characters nowadays have that, so we'll really go with it and just use it as transmutation fodder. And then aside from that, we have an awakening for Priestess. So when Priestess first came out, she wasn't that great, if I recall correctly. She did have a very cool AP cost reduction talent, so let's see what she has now. Her first talent increases the hit count timer by 3 seconds and gives everybody an extra hit on normals. Her second talent is a 35% attack buff for Priestess herself when the hit count is above 100 hits. Her third talent increases the entire party's attack by 30%, and for everybody who's standing in close range, they get an extra 50% crit chance. Then her fourth talent reduces her AP costs by 40% when she's on skill chain 3 or more, and 50% when she's higher than skill chain 4. And then her fifth talent, I guess, her new one, increases crit chance by 100% on skill chain 5 or above, and crit damage by 50% on skill chain 7 or above, and crit damage by 100% on skill chain 9 or above, all for Priestess herself, so that's pretty cool. And then her last talent increases her attack by 20%, HP by 20%, and gives her a 30% chance to recover AP, 20 AP, whenever she uses Jump and Thump, which was her main skill. It gives her air evasions and also reduces nullifies the crits that she takes while she is charge assaulting. And then her rush now has a 5500% multiplier. So I guess Priestess finally has some actual talents now, because before this she had like nothing. She only had the AP cost reduction and crits or something. But now she has a lot more, and you can also see, or maybe, well, you probably can't read it, but I said skill chain 7 and skill chain 9, she increases her own crit damage by 50% and 100%. I think she's the only character right now that even has a talent that comes remotely close to skill chain 9. That's pretty ridiculous, and I think she can actually reach those numbers with her 40% AP cost reduction, or I guess 50% at skill chain 4, and she also has a pretty decent attack stat sitting at 3000, not the highest that we've seen so far, but she does have some very cool crit talents for herself, so that of course increases her damage output by a bit. Unfortunately, I think her rush buff is still the same. It's still the HP recovery, which kind of sucks because not many characters actually need that, so it would have been better if it was just another offensive buff. But aside from that, she got a new attack, and I'm not sure what that attack actually does, because before this, the Jump and Thump was her main attack, like I said. So I don't know how good this attack might be. It could just be like a random long-range attack or a combo filler that she got, but seeing her last talent, I'm pretty sure Jump and Thump is still her main skill. Overall, Priestess seems pretty fun, although her long combos are kind of difficult to keep up, I guess, because, most of the time you do have to dash out of your combo to avoid attacks, so that might become a problem in higher difficulties. But if you like Priestess, then you have no reason not to awaken her. And with the introduction of Priestess, of course, we got the Awakening banner with Miracle, Mirage, and Priestess, of course. Now, as always, I don't really recommend you pull on this banner because none of these characters are limited. You can get them from everything, like even the tickets. So don't really recommend you pull on this, and just save your gems for some other stuff, like another collab in the future, I guess. And speaking of collaborations, we have the Persona event with Kasumi, Futaba, and Rena. So our currency is the blank card red. Ton of stuff in the shop, so let's take a look at the weapons. The first one is the Snow White Rapier, which increases damage on sword dance by 20%, increases attack damage by 20% at 200 hit counts, and it gives you a 3% HP recovery when you charge assault from long to close range. That's a pretty cool factor, so I highly recommend you max limit break this weapon and maybe turn it into a gear if you're not going to use Kasumi, because that's, like I said, that's a cool factor. And then we have the Rikoro Namicon, secondly, which increases damage on My Hand, Shine, and Shout by 20%, in damage by 20% at full HP, and it increases the crits, or the crit chance that you have against enemies during element burst stun by 10%, if that makes sense. This one is of course made for Futaba. That last factor is again one of a kind, so if you're not going to use her, then at least max limit break this weapon and turn it into a gear, a factor gear at least. Then we have the Summoned Spirit, which increases damage on Phantom Raid Arrow by 20%, attack damage by 20% when you charge Assault, and it recovers 2% HP when you charge Assault using the Multi-Lock Mastery. So that's, of course, Rena's new mastery. That's a pretty cool one, I guess. So again, like all the other weapons that we have, one of a kind, turn it into a gear, grab that last factor because it might come in handy sometime in the future. But aside from that, these weapons aren't really useful on any other characters except for the event characters that they were introduced with, Rena, Kasumi, and Futaba. Then we have the Monakar accessory, which increases crit chance by 15% when you're at full HP, and increases attack and in damage that enemies take when their element burst stunned by 10%. That's also a pretty cool one. Crit chance is nice. There are other accessories that give that, although I don't think there are any accessories that give attack and in damage taken during element burst stun by 10%, so again, this is a pretty good one, and you can run this on a lot of offensive characters, I guess. And the boss of this event is the Antonora Core, which I guess that's supposed to be Shadow Rena. That's pretty cool. So she's weak to fire, lightning, light, and dark. That's a whole lot of elements, and I'm sure everybody has something for this boss. So she's not that difficult. I've battled her a couple times, at least not for long-range characters. If you're playing close range, you have to be a little careful, but I guess we'll get back to that later. So of course we have the event achievement list. For all of the achievements up to this point, you just have to complete every single stage that you can find in the event, and the Misery one you have to complete 40 times to get all of these small limit breakers, and then for this one, you have to use the item exchange 15 times. Doesn't really matter which one you use, but just use it 15 times. Then this one, limit break and accessory once. It's pretty easy. And then for the last one, you have to complete this mission right here. You can see the pink ticket mission. This ticket can be gotten from the shop for, I think, 50 cards? Yeah. So 50 cards, buy that ticket, and then complete that mission, and you get a large limit breaker. Pretty easy. And I think that's it. And then I guess we'll take a look at the banner. So first we have the banner with all three of them on rate up. This is a very good banner to roll on because it gives you a 9% chance of getting one of these three Persona characters on your 10th slot, and a 3% chance on every other slot, so be sure to do 10 pulls on this. And if you're wondering, the other, or I guess the three male Persona characters are not on this banner, which kind of sucks. But I guess we'll take a look at Kasumi. So for Kasumi, her first talent increases the int of the entire party by 20% or 40% if the hit count is above 200 hits or 400 hits respectively, and it also converts 70% of int to attack for all attackers, sharpshooters, and defenders. Then her second talent is an extra hit on normals for everybody in the party, and it also increases the rush gauge by 3% every 3 seconds for everybody in the party. Then her third talent increases her own attack by 30% whenever she's at close range, and increases her normal attack AP recovery by 100% at long range, and recovers 15 AP whenever she charge assaults from long range to close range. That's a very interesting one. And then her last talent nullifies the crits that she takes when she charge assaults, reduces the AP cost on dodging by 80%, and increases her speed on dodging by 100%. And then her rush, I have no idea how to pronounce that, so I'm just going to say Sandrillan Mahakogan, has a 4500% attack multiplier, and as a post-rush buff, it increases the attack damage and in damage for the entire party by 50% and 30% respectively. And then for her other attacks, she has some really good hit counts on them, some relatively low AP costs, I guess. And then on top of that, she has the extra hit on skills as well, so these numbers go up a bit. So Kasumi is a DPS buffing hybrid. I guess she has that int buff which helps Futaba out, but it also works with her conversion. 70% is the highest conversion that we have right now, which is usually around a 40% attack buff for attackers, I guess. Doesn't really matter too much, just for reference, I suppose. Then she has that extra hit on skills, which helps with stun chance as well as hit count building. The 3% rush gauge increase comes into play pretty often as well, so it's really cool. Although the Persona characters have some really good rush gain already, but it helps other characters. And then her third buff is the interesting one, because it recovers 15 AP whenever she charge assaults from long range to close range, and seeing as how she's an attacker, she can use Vanguard, so that works very well for her. And then on top of that, she has a 30% attack buff at close range. She has a 2700 normal attack stat, so that goes up to about 3400, I think, which is very good for a DPS character. And then on top of that, her attacks are also really good. And to top it off, she has a ranged normal attack as a one-handed sword character. I don't think there are any other one-handed sword characters that have that. I could be wrong, but that's a really cool one. So overall, Kasumi is pretty good. She fills a role that no other attacker has filled yet, I don't think. So if you want to pull for her, go right ahead. And up next we have Futaba. Her first talent increases the damage that enemies take by 45% or 60% whenever Futaba is at 100% HP, which goes up to 75% damage dealt whenever Element Burst Stun occurs for 30 seconds. Then her second talent, whenever Futaba charge assaults, her cancel bonus goes up to 200% immediately, increases her chance of causing stun by 60% whenever she's at full HP, and whenever Element Burst Stun occurs, enemies or you deal an extra 50% rush combo damage for everybody in the party for 30 seconds. Then her third talent increases the damage that she does on skills and her AP cost by 50% whenever she uses all members anti-shock, anti-flash defense, and go all-out range attack. If you were able to follow that, that's pretty cool. And then her last talent increases her own instat by 20% whenever she uses It's Not Agidyne Right Now for 10 seconds, increases her AP recovery by 50%, and gives her full HP recovery whenever she uses My Hand Shine and Shout at skill chain 3 or higher. And then we have her rush. Okay, I'll push you to the limit, which has a 4500% int multiplier and increases the elemental damage that everybody in the party does by 80% for 20 seconds. And Jesus Christ, look at those skill names. I wonder who came up with those. Probably Futaba herself. So you can see those first two skills are very similar. They have similar AP costs, fire and light element, which is pretty cool. Then the other two attacks are, I guess, her filler attacks, kind of. And of course, they have some low multipliers for being a caster, but she does double those multipliers with her skill, or talent, I guess. So Futaba is pretty similar to Mavelle. In case you don't know, she also has a skill that increases her AP cost, but it increases her skill damage as well. So that's pretty cool because it makes her a bit more mobile. And then Futaba also has a skill that increases damage taken, which is different than damage dealt, because they actually stack with each other. And I think 60% damage taken is the highest damage buff that we have right now, so that's pretty cool. 75% is definitely the highest damage taken buff that we have right now. And that's only after Element Burst Stun occurs, so she would pair very well with Makoto or, you know, Roddick, for instance. She also has her second talent, which instantly puts her at cancel bonus 200%, which pairs well with her third talent after you activate that, because she doesn't really have the AP cost or the AP to build up to that cancel bonus, so that's pretty cool. And then she also has the this last one that gives her a full HP recovery whenever she uses My Hand Shine and Shout at skill chain 3. Unfortunately, if you increase her AP cost, you can't really do that anymore, so you kind of have to wait that buff out before you can do that. But she has her own heal, which is really cool, and it's a very powerful heal too. And her instat is sitting at 2700, which isn't great, but she does increase it by 20% after she uses It's Not Agidyne Right Now. So Futaba also seems pretty cool. She pairs well with the other Persona characters, but from my experience, she also seems a little slow. That might just be because I suck playing as invokers, but overall, yeah, pretty cool. If you like Futaba, then also go for her, because she is definitely one of the best invokers. And lastly, we have Rena. She increases damage dealt by 40%, which goes up to 60% or 80% when the hit count is at 200 hits or 400 hits respectively. Then we also have her second talent, which increases the hit count timer by 3 seconds and reduces AP cost by 20% or 40% at 200 hit count or 400 hit count. Then her third talent increases the chance of causing stun during the rush combo, which is a new one, at 400 hit counts plus, and the second part of it increases AP recovery by 200% after Element Burst Stun for Rena for 30 seconds. And then the fourth talent increases crit chance for everybody in the party by 30% after Element Burst Stun occurs. For Rena herself, it nullifies the critical that she takes whenever she charge assaults, and it gives her an air dodge. And then lastly, we have her mastery talent, the first sharpshooter mastery talent, Multi-Lock. I'm not really sure what this one does. From my, at least I think it works kind of like a Kingdom Hearts shot lock, if you know what that is. So if you hold the charge assault, you get like a little lock-on symbol, and then it starts counting up the hit count. So I think it increases your damage by a bit. I think it says 250% right there whenever you use those attacks, and it gives you an extra 6 hit count. So I'm pretty sure it just increases your damage and gives you some extra hit count, but if somebody in the comments wants to confirm that, then go right ahead. And then her rush all-out attack chance, I was waiting for somebody to have that rush. It has a 4500% attack multiplier, and as a post-rush buff, it reduces everybody's AP cost by 60% for 10 seconds. And then all of her skills have some really good hit counts, low AP cost, and being a sharpshooter, they're also really fast. Unlike the last skill, this one is kind of slow, but it does have a very high multiplier, and you could use her mastery talent with it. And Rena is the first sharpshooter that we have in the Persona collab here, so now we have a Persona character for every single role, except healers, because, you know, screw those guys. So she has that 60% attack buff, which goes up to 80% at 400 hits. 400 hits is not that difficult to get with Rena, because her hit counts are pretty ridiculous, especially with that multi-lock mastery. So 400 hit count shouldn't be that difficult to get. 80% damage buff is ridiculous. Like I said, it stacks with Futaba's damage buff, so if you pair both of those together, you can reach some crazy numbers. Hit count timer plus 3% doesn't really matter too much, but, you know, it helps a little bit. And then the AP cost reduction by 40%, that's a really good one. Colleen has that as well, and it helps out every single character in the game a lot. You do need to reach a 400 hit count to proc it, but like I said, shouldn't be that difficult to reach with Rena. Then we have the stun chance buff, and that one's interesting because I'm not sure if that one stacks with regular stun chance. I don't think it does, but if it doesn't really have a place, does it? So I would assume that it stacks with that. Doesn't really make sense if it stacks, but 400 hit count to achieve that, and then it only increases it during the rush combo. That doesn't seem too great, because you might as well go with Erotic or Makoto, who have that for like every single attack. But then she also has a crit chance during element burst stun, which again pairs well with the other characters who have a ton of extra stuff or buffs during element burst stun, so you can rush down enemies very quickly during element burst stun. That's really cool, I like that. And then, you know, lastly, her mastery talent, which, like I said, increases her hit counts and damage. And she uses a bow, which personally I'm not a huge fan of. Then again, she does have some low AP cost on her skill, so you don't really have to use your normal attack. You could just go straight into the skill. And then she also has that AP cost reduction buff, so it doesn't really matter too much. So again, this is a very good banner. All three of these characters are very powerful. They're all limited too, so if you want any of them, you have to pull for them now. Personally, I'm going to pull for Kasumi because, you know, thighs, and I might pull for Rena as well because she does have a cool rush. But aside from that, I think we're done here. And that does it for the update. Stay tuned for the pull video. I'm not sure when I'm going to do that, probably tomorrow, but I guess I'll see you guys later. Peace!